silently investing in her boyfriend's company for 5 years without a return. He said he had a surprise before listing, and the result called beggars to wanton shame me 5 years ago. When my boyfriend's small company was on the brink of bankruptcy, I stepped in to save him, quietly supporting him from the shadows. Without revealing my identity, I became the company's largest shareholder. 5 years later, the night before his company was set to go public, he held me in his arms and said, "Emma, after the company goes public tomorrow, don't leave. I have a surprise for you." At that moment, I was swept away by the idea of his surprise, my mind racing with the hopeful thought that he might propose. I didn't notice the cold glint of malice lurking in his eyes. The next day, as his company went public, he slapped me across the face and sneered, "Do you even see what kind of person you are? Did you really think someone like you could marry me?" He grabbed me by the hair and dragged both me and my best friend in front of the crowd of thugs and beggars. He gathered, "These worthless cast-offs aren't good enough for me anymore. Consider them my gift to you. Do whatever you like with them." Chapter 1. After the company's listing ceremony ended, I sat in the VIP section, waiting for Jasper Lowe to come find me. My best friend, Yvonne Cook, suddenly gasped in surprise. "Emma, why are there so many beggars and thugs all of a sudden?" Furling her gaze, I looked over. At some point, a group of thugs and beggars had swarmed into the hotel venue. The doors and windows of the hotel were also completely sealed, though I hadn't noticed when that happened. Yvonne anxiously asked, "Emma, what's going on?" As the group of thugs and beggars slowly advanced toward us, I quickly turned my head. Scanning the area, when I looked up, my eyes met a familiar gaze not far away. Jasper stood there with his assistant smiling as he watched us. The moment I saw the smile on his face, my heart skipped a beat. A terrible sense of foreboding crept over me. "Jasper Lowe, what are you doing just standing there? Get over here and get us out of here." Yvonne had spotted him too and called out to him urgently the moment her voice faded. Jasper's smile disappeared. With a casual wave of his hand, he issued an order to the thugs and beggars. His lips parted and he calmly uttered, "Do whatever you want with these two women within the next 30 minutes. As his words fell, the group of thugs and beggars charged at us like madmen. Yvonne and I screamed in terror, clinging to each other as we tried to escape. But before we could get far, we were overwhelmed by the thugs and beggars, swarming from all directions, forcing us to the ground. Clutching Yvonne tightly, I refused to let go. Their filthy hands kept tugging at us, relentless and unyielding. Then came a ripping sound. Yvonne's dress had been torn apart. The sound acted like an adrenaline shot, driving the mob into an even greater frenzy. As we were on the verge of being dragged apart, Yvonne sobbed into my ear, "Emma, has Jasper gone mad? Why is IT saving us?" Her words struck me, and I suddenly remembered what Jasper told me the night before. "Emma, don't leave after the company goes public tomorrow. I have a surprise for you," he said with a smile. I was lost in the thought of his so-called surprise, foolishly wondering if he might propose. I had ignored the malice and calculation buried deep in his eyes. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine this was the surprise he had in store. Just as despair began to consume me, Jasper's voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down." The filthy hands stopped retreating as though commanded. I opened my eyes and saw Jasper's familiar yet disturbingly unfamiliar face. He was crouched before me, looking down with a cold gaze. In a daze, I choked out, "Is this the surprise you mentioned yesterday?" Chapter 2. Jasper nodded, a cold smile curling on his lips. "Emma, you didn't seriously think the surprise I mentioned was marrying you, did you?" he asked mockingly. I froze, stunned by his words. Why shouldn't I think that? 5 years ago, when his company was on the brink of collapse and near bankruptcy, he'd been consumed by despair, taking out his frustration on me night after night. It became unbearable both to witness and endure. Desperate, I asked Yvonne to step in and secretly inject funds into his company, pulling it back from the edge of ruin. After that, I went even further, begging my brother to provide covert support. Thanks to these efforts, his company began to thrive, growing over the next 5 years into the publicly listed enterprise it was today. I gave so much to him, why wouldn't I believe he intended to marry me, Emma?